The story of 7-month-old Emmanuel Haro is a tragedy that should never have happened. A tragedy that reveals just how fragile a child's life can be when those who are meant to protect them fail. Emmanuel's short life was overshadowed by mistakes, oversights, and a system that was meant to safeguard him but fell short. His family, the community, and the authorities all played a role in a chain of events that led to a devastating loss, leaving questions that may never be fully answered. Across the country, Florida's new law on corporal punishment allows parents wider discretion in disciplining their children. On paper, it aims to clarify boundaries and guide care. But Emmanuel's story challenges us to think critically what happens when children rely on adults to keep them safe, and the system cannot intervene in time. How many more young lives are at risk when oversight, policy, and vigilance fail to align? This is not only Emmanuel's story, it is a reflection of every community, every family, and every law that exists to protect the innocent. It is a call to awareness, to reflection, and to asking the difficult questions. Emmanuel's life was brief, but the lessons it leaves behind are profound. How do we ensure that children are protected, that policies truly serve their best interests, and that no life is overlooked in the quiet spaces where danger can hide? But before we dive into this, kindly subscribe to our channel if you believe in fighting for justice. Because every view, every comment, every subscriber is a stand against silence and a step toward justice. We've just crossed 5,000 subscribers, all because of your support, and we need that same energy to reach 6,000, then 7,000, and then 10,000. So go ahead and drop your fingerprints on that subscribe button, and definitely where you're watching from, because wherever you are, the day this vision is fulfilled, I will send my appreciation straight to you. Let's keep building this community that stands and fights for justice together. The tragedy of Emmanuel Haro forces a difficult question: how well does society protect its children? Florida's new corporal punishment law, which grants parents significant discretion in disciplining their children, was designed to clarify legal boundaries. Yet Emmanuel's story highlights the potential danger when children are left at the mercy of adults who, intentionally or not, fail to provide the protection they need. This is not just a local concern. Across the country, similar debates are unfolding. How much authority should parents have over their children? And at what point should the state intervene to ensure safety? Emmanuel's story is a stark reminder that laws alone cannot shield the most vulnerable. Policies must be paired with vigilance, enforcement, and a culture of accountability. It compels us to ask how many more children could be lost to inaction, to loopholes, or to laws that, while well-intentioned, fail to prevent harm. Emmanuel's life, though tragically short, serves as a warning. His story urges society to examine how policies, systems, and adults interact, and to recognize that protecting children is not optional. It is an urgent responsibility that demands attention, action, and care. A 7-month-old baby disappears. A mother tells a story that shocks the community. But as investigators dig deeper, a more troubling truth begins to emerge, one that reveals a system that failed, a family that struggled, and a life taken far too soon. This is the story of Emmanuel Haro. Authorities first responded to a call in Yucaipa, California, on August 14, 2025. The mother, Rebecca Haro, reported that while caring for her infant son outside a store, something went wrong. Emmanuel was gone. At first, the community held on to hope. Perhaps it was an accident, perhaps he had wandered. But as details were examined, inconsistencies began to appear, and hope slowly gave way to concern. From the very beginning, investigators noticed that the timeline did not make sense, statements did not align, and Emmanuel's whereabouts remained unknown. The case was quickly understood to be more than a simple disappearance. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that every decision, every oversight, every unanswered question could hold the key to understanding what happened to Emmanuel. This is not just the story of a missing child. It is a story about responsibility, about protection, and about how fragile a young life can be when the adults and systems around them do not act in time. The search for answers begins now. Emmanuel Haro was only 7 months old, a child whose life should have been protected and nurtured, yet from the very beginning, danger shadowed his existence. His father, Jake Haro, had a troubling history. In 2023, a 10-week-old infant under his care suffered severe injuries, a case that shocked the community. Though the law recognized the seriousness of the crime, the legal outcome was probation rather than a lengthy sentence, leaving questions about the effectiveness of the system's safeguards. Emmanuel's story forces us to confront a difficult reality. The laws designed to protect children can sometimes fall short, especially when oversight is limited and prior incidents are not fully addressed. Protections exist on paper, but without proper enforcement, they can leave children exposed to risks that could otherwise have been prevented. And now, in 2025, those same protections were tested again. The structures meant to ensure Emmanuel's safety, the legal framework, Child Protective Services, and community vigilance had already failed once. Every decision, every loophole, every delay became part of a chain that left his life hanging in the balance. Emmanuel was innocent, yet he became the measure of how well society and its laws truly shield the most vulnerable among us. On August 14, 2025, Emmanuel Haro contacted authorities with a story that would immediately capture the community's attention. She said that while caring for Emmanuel outside a store in Yucaipa, California, she was attacked, lost consciousness, and woke to find her baby missing. The tale was shocking, heart-stopping, and at first seemed almost impossible to believe. The community responded with fear, confusion, and concern. Neighbors, friends, and passers-by held on to hope that Emmanuel would be found quickly, that this might be a frightening incident, but one that could end safely. But as investigators began to examine the details, troubling inconsistencies began to emerge. Timelines did not match, statements conflicted, and critical questions arose about the circumstances surrounding Emmanuel's disappearance. Something did not add up. The initial story, while alarming, was only the beginning. Each new piece of evidence suggested a reality far more complex, far more troubling than anyone had imagined. The case was no longer just about a missing baby. It was a test of the systems and safeguards meant to protect the most vulnerable among us. And in that test, every failure, every gap, and every delay would matter. As authorities dug deeper into the disappearance of Emmanuel Haro, troubling contradictions began to surface. Interviews with the mother, neighbors, and family members revealed inconsistencies that could not be ignored. Every statement was scrutinized, every timeline dissected, and every detail weighed against evidence collected at the scene. Slowly, a chilling picture began to emerge. Emmanuel may have been harmed days before the initial report reached the authorities. The search for Emmanuel's small, fragile body consumed the community. Law enforcement, volunteers, and neighbors combed streets, parks, and surrounding areas, driven by hope, fear, and a profound sense of urgency. Every tip was investigated, every clue followed, yet the answers remained just out of reach. Each passing hour heightened the tension and the emotional strain. Families worried, friends prayed, and the community collectively held its breath, desperate for a sign of hope. But this investigation was not just about finding a missing child. It became a reflection of a system under scrutiny, a system that had already failed before Emmanuel's disappearance. Questions arose about prior warnings, about the decisions that allowed a history of harm to go insufficiently addressed, and about the mechanisms that were meant to protect him but had already faltered. Every lead, every shadow, every unanswered question weighed heavily on those working tirelessly to save him. And investigators understood that each moment mattered. The difference between discovery and tragedy could hinge on a single overlooked detail. And as the search continued, the community was forced to confront a painful reality. Hope was intertwined with fear, and the answers they sought could change everything they believed about safety, protection, and responsibility. On August 22, 2025, authorities arrested Rebecca and Jake Haro. The couple was formally charged with murder and filing a false police report. For a community already reeling, the news was both shocking and deeply unsettling. Emmanuel's life, already so brief, had ended in tragedy, and now the individuals responsible were facing the weight of the law. The arrest brought renewed scrutiny to a system that had previously failed to protect him. Jake Haro's prior conviction for injuring a young infant in 2023 loomed large over the case. Despite the severity of that earlier incident, he had received probation rather than a stricter sentence. District Attorney Mike Hestron publicly stated what many had begun to fear: the system broke down. It likely cost Emmanuel his life. Community outrage was immediate. Questions were asked not only about the Haros, but about the structures designed to safeguard children. How had the warning signs been missed? How could someone with a documented history of child harm still have the opportunity to place another life at risk? The arrests did not erase the tragedy. They underscored it, forcing everyone involved to confront the stark reality of accountability, oversight, and the consequences of systemic failures. In the eyes of investigators and the community alike, Emmanuel's story was no longer just a case to be solved. It had become a measure of how far the law, child protective services, and society itself could go to protect its most vulnerable, and how devastating the cost could be when those safeguards failed. Emmanuel Haro's death was not merely the result of one family's actions, it revealed a series of systemic failures. Prior warnings, missed opportunities for intervention, and gaps in the legal system all converged, leaving a vulnerable child without protection. Every agency tasked with safeguarding him, from Child Protective Services to law enforcement and the courts, faced questions about how such a tragedy could occur under their watch. The community's response was a mix of grief, outrage, and reflection. Neighbors, friends, and concerned citizens struggled to understand how warning signs had gone unheeded. How could a history of abuse not trigger more decisive action? How could a child's life hang in the balance, while the mechanisms designed to ensure safety remained incomplete or ineffective? Critics pointed to the prior leniency shown to Jake Haro as an example of systemic weakness. They questioned whether the legal system truly prioritized the welfare of children, or if gaps and delays had created space for tragedy to unfold. For the families in the community, the pain was compounded by a sense of collective responsibility. Emmanuel's death forced them to confront uncomfortable truths that safeguarding the innocent requires vigilance, accountability, and a willingness to act even when intervention is difficult or inconvenient. This case became more than a legal matter. It became a mirror, reflecting the challenges society faces in protecting its most vulnerable members. Emmanuel's story was a call to examine not just individual actions, but the structures, policies, and human decisions that shape whether a child's life is nurtured or left exposed to harm. The tragedy of Emmanuel Haro also raises broader questions about how society protects its children. Florida's new corporal punishment law, for example, gives parents wider discretion in disciplining their children. While the law is intended to define boundaries and guide parental authority, cases like Emmanuel's reveal the danger of leaving children at the mercy of adults who are meant to safeguard them, but sometimes fail to do so. Emmanuel's story highlights the delicate balance between parental rights and the responsibilities of the state to intervene when a child is at risk. It forces us to ask difficult questions. Are current laws enough to prevent harm? Are oversight and enforcement sufficient to ensure that every child is safe? And how do we address situations where past warnings were ignored and tragedy still occurred? The case underscores the need for constant vigilance and reflection. It is not simply about one law, one policy, or one family. It is about the system as a whole. Emmanuel's death is a reminder that protecting children requires more than rules written on paper. It requires active, timely, and effective action by everyone involved, from parents to lawmakers, from community members to child protective agencies. Every moment of inaction can have irreversible consequences, and Emmanuel's story stands as a somber testament to that reality. Emmanuel Haro will never grow up. His life was brief, but the questions his story raises are profound and enduring. How could a child so young, so innocent, be left vulnerable despite the systems and laws designed to protect him? How many warning signs were missed, and what might have been done differently to prevent this tragedy? His story is not just a single case, it is a reflection of the responsibility we all share. It asks us to examine the effectiveness of our laws, the vigilance of our communities, and the commitment of every adult entrusted with the care of children. Emmanuel's life, though tragically short, forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about oversight, protection, and accountability. As we remember Emmanuel, we are reminded that protecting children requires more than rules on paper. It requires action, awareness, and unwavering commitment from every level of society. Every policy, every intervention, and every decision can mean the difference between life and death. Emmanuel's story is a call to ensure that no other child is left exposed to the risks he faced, and that society never again allows innocence to be lost to oversight, inaction, or systemic failure. If Emmanuel's story moved you, take a moment to reflect and act. Share this video to raise awareness about the importance of protecting children. Discuss it with your community, support local child protection initiatives, and stay vigilant. Every conversation, every action can help ensure that no child is left vulnerable like Emmanuel. Because protecting the innocent is not just a responsibility, it is a duty we all share.